Okay, good evening. It is just seconds. Oh, it is 5 o'clock officially now. We are going to bring this Port Authority meeting. Today is Monday, June 12th. We're going to bring this meeting to order. Call to order, please. Or, yeah, roll call. Thanks.
Yes, here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
We have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is going to be the approval of minutes and the agenda.
I'll move. I'll second.
Thank you. We are going to, our next item is an update on the Otter Tail Power Solar Field lease.
Do we need to vote on that?
Oh, sorry.
Probably, right?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Sorry.
Clara, are you going to spearhead this, or are we going to have Rolf have the discussion? Rolf?
I will.
All right.
Okay, so if you folks recall, the last time Otter Tail was before you, oh, come on, people can hear me, can't they? All right. The last time Otter Tail was before us, they are looking at wanting to acquire an interest in property near the racetrack to consider putting up a solar farm. They are looking at a 20-acre piece that we own as the Port Authority, and they feel that the 20 acres is what is the area that more or less 20 acres is what they need for this project. So to flesh this project out, they are requesting an option period for 5 years. And during the next 5 years, or up to 5 years, they will have to make some final decisions whether they pull the trigger or not on a solar farm. If they pull the trigger on a solar farm, then that would trigger where we would basically enter into a easement agreement with them over this property, yet we continue to retain ownership. They propose that during year 1 and 5, the option period, they make a one-time payment of $1,000, okay? And we get to continue to crop it. So we would continue to earn whatever meager income we make off of it. $170 an acre times 20 acres or so. And, okay, great, that's awesome. If they pull the trigger and they want to basically start the project, then they are requesting an additional term of a 5-year development term. And that's where they would get their licensure and conditional use permits and whatever else they may need to operate this thing in place. And it's a period of up to 5 years. They assure us that they would work quickly trying to get this developed. Thereafter, they are requesting a construction term. And the construction term is 3 years, or up to 3 years, to allow them to get a project built. And then once the project is built, they are proposing an operations term of 35 years with 2 additional 10-year terms to tack on to this. They are proposing that if they pull the trigger on this project, that they would pay $300 an acre for 20 acres plus or minus. And that would be an annual payment, and it has a 2% escalator. Each year it would go up 2%. And so this is a potential 68-year contract with $300 on an acre for 20 acres, more or less, for a term of more than 60, probably closer to 68 years. So I wanted to get the terms to you to see if this is even remotely close to what you contemplate when you think of leasing this property. And they're still open if we they're still open to purchasing this property at this point too. If you want to keep things easy, purchasing may be something to do, because then it's on them to make a decision as to what they do with this property moving forward. We don't have this development term, we don't have this operations term, we don't have this option term, but it's up to you. So that's what's being proposed.
Did they have an idea of when they want a decision on this? What kind of time frame are we up against as far as giving them an answer?
August 1st.
Mr. Nickelman, when does the 300 start?
starts after year 5. Or the option period. I mean, they want up to 5 years to exercise the option, so it starts after year 5.
Yeah, so the first 5 years, we continue to rent it to the current tenant.
Royal Farms.
And then you're, if you will, 6 and on, it's $300 a year per acre with a 2% escalator on an annual basis. Have you figured out that, Cash?
Nope.
May I?
You certainly can figure it out. Again, I wasn't sure if you guys are thinking $300 an acre, $500 an acre, or what. I'm not the one that does the negotiating for you. You tell me what it is you want.
What's the property tax value on it?
I don't know.
It hasn't been evaluated
mean-
for property tax, it's tax exempt.
Oh, yeah. Well, it probably has a valuation, but,
well,
it's
I don't-
20.
I don't use technology during a meeting. I don't want to be accused of anything, so that's why I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's ag property, but it's only 20 acres.
Can they can, the 5-year option, they could actually exercise their option at any point in that 5 years technically and start the other time frames?
Yeah. Well, and their hope would be that it moves faster than
Right.
5 years, but
Yeah, once they exercise the option, it's just then the triggers are, everything's in motion,
So who would be responsible for property tax?
Yeah, that's a question.
It's not clear.
Yeah.
They're getting the property surveyed, so as this sits right here, the way they've drafted it is that it would be our responsibility. And, we could probably incorporate that they pay the property taxes as well. But the way that it's drafted here, they're just making a payment to us. And it would become taxable.
Right. By doing 68 years and tying this up, is there any other development? I mean, are we doing anything that's shooting ourselves in the foot by going this route? Or,
It does leave, there is some acreage that is not going to be usable with taking only 20.
that's what I thought.
Right, because then the racetrack is only looking at 17 acres, I believe. So we do have some that would not be part of that.
Could we hypothetically say you got to take it all and pay on all of it?
that was the initial, that's
Uh-huh.
what they asked for first, was
And then
just
we
to
didn't wanna
buy
do-
the whole thing.
right.
Yeah.
I just looked it up, president and members. $269,600 is the entire parcel, which is 53.57 acres. So 20 acres of that would be proportional, I suppose.
Right.
So I'm with the mayor that the property taxes are the real hitch here. Before you know it, that you're paying more in property taxes than you're getting back for the land, possibly when that time comes. So this is a deal that normally, if I was looking at this, just if I owned it and it was an outside company, I would say no way to what we're looking at here. But I always have to remember that Otter Tail Power is one of the bedrocks of our community. Otter Tail Power is important to the community of Fergus Falls. And so I would like to strike a deal with them. I think the thing that I look at is, I think when I was looking at this earlier, 300 seemed to be somewhat of a low rate. I thought solar farms were looking at 700 on average in the state of Minnesota, but I may be wrong. I'm not trying to negotiate a hard deal with Otter Tail Power. I just want to make sure that we as a community and taxpayers are getting back a fair rate back on it. I think if we could find out what that fair rate is, if it's 500, 600, and renegotiate that back, and also have them take care of the property taxes for the 20 acres, I think that would be a deal that I would go forward with.
Give me number. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know what the going rate is going to be for something like this. And I can confirm it, they do say that grantor, the city, Port Authority will pay property taxes and assessments against the property. That is in the agreement. But they would pay, they would pay personal property taxes, whatever that is, on a solar project. But, yeah, I don't know. The other option is to sell. I mean, and as I said, that we could arrive at a purchase price too. I mean, but it's at this point, I'm just looking for some direction.
Your Honor, I'm going to stick with Mr. Mortensen. I truly believe that owning our own dirt is a good deal, and if this rent starts at $300, $400, $500 a month with a 2% escalator, even the present value of that cash stream is huge compared to the actual value of that land today. So I strongly recommend that we consider the long-term lease and then pray that it happens. 63 years. So I'll yield the floor until I do a little math.
Can we first have a discussion on the $1,000 for the first year as one lump sum? Where are we sitting at with that offer?
Well, normally that would be an offer I probably would laugh at a little bit, but again, this is Otter Tail Power in our community, and so I don't have an issue with it at all.
Okay. Any additional feedback?
I don't have a concern about that. I'm more concerned, I guess, about that we're leaving ourselves some land. Like, I just feel like we're possibly having something that we're never going to get a good return on because of the little bit that's going to end up being left. And so I feel like we might need a plan around what we're going to do with that, or force the lease on the whole thing, even if they don't use it on a solar project, force them to do the lease.
I don't know what that feedback would be for the full,
I don't either.
you know,
Without putting in the escalator, 63 years, 12 months, is 757 months. And it's 300 an acre.
yes.
Per year.
Yep.
Bear with me. Go ahead, Scott.
I guess the question that I would have is what else we might do with the property. If we don't make this deal, what might be we reserving the property for? What kind of potential other use might we be giving up? And there's probably dozens of suggestions for that, I don't know. But whether there is anything that we might be otherwise, seeing as a better use, I'd like to explore that a little bit.
Clara, can you talk about any interest that we've had in that?
Yeah, none. None since I've been with the city, so since 2019. There is a lack of infrastructure to the site, and the cost of infrastructure is a barrier to development. There's the piece of property that's directly above the parcel that we're talking about with Otter Tail Power is also the piece that we're using as kind of a bargaining chip to release property behind SCR Solutions from that easement. So the upper portion of that area is going to be likely become a wetland management or a wildlife management area, so there will never be development on it. So the options I'm seeing for that property are limited.
Chair, is it possible, can I ask a question? Is it possible, so how much are we looking at for the trade-off for SCR? And then we look at how much the racetrack is looking at. What are we left with if they take 20 and we have the SCR trade-off?
The SCR trade-off is taking a different parcel.
Yeah, it's not
Oh,
part of
that's
this.
different altogether.
Yep, it's not
Okay.
part of this.
Okay,
It's just directly above this parcel
okay,
that we're.
okay.
Mhm.
I was thinking it was directly above the 20 they wanted is how I took that. Okay.
So the way I look at this, two parts of this. Sometimes in business you have to be really hard line. In this, I want to be soft with Otter Tail Power. I want Otter Tail Power to be connected to Fergus Falls as much as they can for the long haul, but at the same time have the constituents of this city profit in a good way by this. When you start to look at the numbers, and Mr. Layton will probably give us some here in a second, over the course of 50 years, the numbers will be far greater than anything we could sell it for. Plus, we'd get the benefit of Otter Tail Power staying here. I don't have an issue with them doing something low lease numbers till they get up and running. That's appropriate. I think the thing that I would like to see is I would like either Mr. Bremseth or our mayor just to go out and get us an average rate of what a solar field in the state of Minnesota rents per acre. And then I would like them to possibly email the council to say, hey, this is the number. Are you okay with this going forward back to Otter Tail Power? I don't know if that's an option. I'll turn that over to both of them to see if they can answer that. But if they find the going rate is $550, $575 an acre in the state of Minnesota, and they email that to us as a group, if we agree, I suggest we go back to Otter Tail Power with just the average per acre rate with the 2% escalation every year and make a deal with Otter Tail Power and keep them close to our community. Is that something that can be done, Mr. Brimseth?
Couldn't Clara do that?
Yeah, Your Honor, Councilman Mortensen, I'm not technically associated with the Port Authority, so I may defer to Clara. And then she would be emailing you all as port members, not council members. So I'll maybe step back, but we certainly can accomplish that.
Sounds good. No disrespect to Ms. Beck on that. I didn't realize the protocol. Is that something that you would consider for us?
Absolutely.
So it sounds like moving forward with giving direction to Clara to find the average for solar power in the state of Minnesota. And then to request that Otter Tail Power pay the property taxes, correct?
And there's probably nothing wrong with looking at the solar farms that are near us in North and South Dakota too, just to have an idea if we don't have enough to draw from.
One thing they're requesting as well is that they have the right to assign this option during the 5-year period. I say no. In the response that I'm going through, that I just say the option isn't assignable because this is the deal between us and Otter Tail. Is that okay? Okay.
I haven't got the full escalation for the 63 years, but let's just look at 63 years. Is it $6,000 a year in rent? That's $378,000. That's $18,900 an acre. Now, again, that's a future payment. It's not the present value, but leasing based on a applicable rate is a smart way to go with a 2% escalation. I'll have that done in a little bit.
Mr. Nickelmo, when you're doing escalation clauses right now, does that seem like a low percentage with where inflation and things have been, or what are you seeing is typical?
I'm going to have to look into that a bit more. I haven't done an escalation over this period of time. It's going to vary depending upon, how long this is escalated out. And, it's a number. It's a number they're proposing.
To me, there might be, if we get into negotiation on that, to me, that could be something we could possibly look at raising some too, or having some stair steps.
Okay, so I think we've given direction here. We're going to go on to the next item of business, which is a grant partnership opportunity for Child Care Expansion Project. Clara will give us the info.
Thank you, Chair. This is something of a time-sensitive request, which is maybe why it's more in front of the Port Authority than having it in front of City Council, just based on when we got this request and when we need to have responses in. But there have been meetings of a cohort of community members who have been looking for solutions for the child care crisis. And as I hope you are all aware, Pioneer Care has been a real leader in the field here locally. Several years ago, they opened their own on-site child care. They hired their own provider, and that person has been providing child care to their employees. They do need to move that program that they have currently out of the building that it's in. They're going to be returning it to memory care. So they've been looking for ways in which they could expand their project and then also involve more members of the community, more employers in that solution. And what we've kind of come up with is a version of the Morris model, as some people are calling it, which is a multiple pod setup of duplexes on a commonly owned piece of property in Stevens County. It's owned by the county. In this case, the request is that the Port Authority would potentially own that property. And the reason that we're starting this conversation now is because there is an opportunity for state funding to the tune of about $500,000, but it's only available to projects that are owned by government entities. The Port Authority would count as one of those entities to be able to do that application. So the question before you tonight really is, are you willing to explore the possibility of acquiring some property from Pioneer Care based on terms, which we don't have in front of us yet, but just willing to explore that? And if you are willing to explore that, are you willing to let the Port Authority be the entity that applies to this state funding?
Okay, so we don't have those terms in front of us. I do have a couple of questions. What would be that legal mechanism of transfer?
So I've had just very preliminary conversations with Nathan Johnson, who's the CEO of Pioneer Care. He has to talk with his board about what that would look like, but we would do some sort of an agreement that would, I'm looking at Rolf here, hopefully be drafted by the city attorney that would transfer that property for, low to no cost, since it's going to be a community project.
Are we talking real estate?
We are talking real estate. Yep.
Will the land be held permanently by the Port Authority?
It will be held by the Port Authority for at least the terms of the grant period, which I believe is a 5-year period. And Amy can maybe correct me if you read that in the application materials. I think that a government entity would need to be the owner of that for, I believe, up to 5 years.
Is there any matching that has to happen?
There is a 50% match. Right now, the group that's been meeting is very confident that that can be met through fundraising efforts. There's a local foundation that is willing to provide a significant amount to the project. I don't know that exact dollar amount at this time, but they would make a significant dent in that match amount, and then the rest would be made up through donations from the community.
Laurel, did you?
Yeah, a couple of things. Thank you for your work on this, and for Amy too. I know you've been working on daycare hard for many years. Amy's here. Is this a us or the county, us and the county? How does this all kind of playing? And I'm not for one or the other more than the other. I think it's important to figure this out.
It's us and or us or, depending on where.
Okay.
So essentially, just we have this opportunity to apply for this state money, and we just need that government entity who's willing to step into the driver's seat and say, we will take this on, we will take on this application. If the Port Authority is not that entity, then Amy is willing to talk to the county about being that entity.
Does she want to talk about? Yeah.
Hi, Chair, Commissioners. The position would be if it's not something the city and or Port Authority is in a position or wishing to do, then we would look for the city to request that the county step in through the Community Development Agency to be a partner on the
Mrs. Beck, questions again. So I feel like I'm making a decision here, but I have no idea what I'm making a decision on. Truthfully, I feel like I'm driving a car through a blizzard here, and I don't want to make a mistake because it's very important for our community. Can you tell me exactly what I'm voting on today and how I can stop this in the future, or where it's at, so I know?
So the request, as I mentioned, is could you somehow make some sort of indication tonight that you would be willing to review terms from Pioneer Care to acquire property? If that is the case, then we would set a meeting for next week or early the week after to ensure that we get a resolution in place that can be included in the grant application. At that same time, then, if you are willing to look at the acquisition and the grant agreement, that resolution would also say, and you're agreeing to be the applicant. I just want to get some feedback tonight that this is something that you are interested in that we can pursue, and then we would set that second meeting. If you're not interested in it, then I'm going to just probably say, okay, how do we get a county or how do we get a resolution going so we can ask the county to step in?
So what you're asking is just to review grant terms with Pioneer Care, not make a deal.
Land acquisition terms.
Terms, that's it. I have no issue with that, for me. The rest of the board will have to decide, but I have no issue with that as long as we have the ability to see the terms and dig into what we're doing on the next vote.
Yes. That would
Yes.
be my intent.
I would agree with that. My only concern is are we doing anything timeline-wise where if for some reason we can't come to terms, we're too late to the party because we can't get it through the county process at that point? That's probably my biggest concern because I think this is important to get this in by the deadline.
Thank you, Chair Commissioners. The next county board meeting, that would be in timeliness for this, and actually would be the Community Development Agency, which meets July 2nd, so not, but we could probably work through it. At the county level, our packet deadline's tomorrow due to the holiday on Thursday for next Tuesday's meeting. So that would be our typical timeline. Yep.
Scott, anything?
So, a question, so the Pioneer Corporation owns the land.
Currently owns the land, yep.
So we're gonna get a grant to buy the land from them? No?
Nope. So we would acquire that land from Pioneer Care before this grant would be in place. And that would be, I can't speak for the terms at this point, but what Nathan and I had discussed was like low to no cost for that acquisition. Sorry, that's my phone.
I think there's been a lot said over the last several years about wanting to work toward solving certain issues with childcare. And if we've got an opportunity as a city to, move forward on this at low or no cost, as you've said, and to examine the terms, I would be in favor of it going forward on this.
I agree. You want to?
Yeah, President, members, I was just gonna, what I heard Amy say is that we basically, if we have concerns or cold feet tonight, we should indicate that we want the county to pursue it rather than the port. It's hard to know without knowing the terms. I think that's a fair point, and I agree. But if there's some hesitation, then we probably ought to at least make the request to the county, and then maybe we could flesh that out in the meantime. But Amy, is that proper?
Thank you. I think we could address ownership if needed in a further state. I think if there's an interest, and it sounds like there is, from the city to be a partner on this, I think it could make most sense for that if something changes in, of course, it's going to be a highly competitive application. I think there's only 900,000 available statewide. So it's, highly competitive. So if an ownership to be qualified, because it is bonding dollars that was appropriated to the program, and that's why the local government needs to be in ownership, that we could address that at a future time, and make a grant modification in the future as well. So just to have that as a consideration too, for knowing there aren't a lot of details known at this time.
Any additional questions or comments?
Would it be wise for them to play with the county and the city at the same time?
I think it's fair to say that that is what's occurring. Yes, all those we have all of these conversations together as entities fairly regularly.
Well, I think, President, I'm sorry to I shouldn't even be talking, but I can't help myself. Is there the ability for the county and the Port Authority to be, obviously you can't own the land jointly, but can you apply to the grant jointly? Would there, maybe that's what Councilmember Layton was getting at.
Somebody has to have the resolution. Yeah. Somebody has to be the resolution holder.
Do we feel like one would be positioned better than the other, county or city, in the application process? No. Okay.
Okay,
No, I'm fine. I'm going back. I just have to have the terms to be able to determine something, and it's like, going into a deal and not even having an idea. So if you can get, I'm willing to get the terms back to me to look at, so we can really do a dive into this, and we'll know right away what we should or shouldn't do, I think, at that point, myself.
do we,
I would say that probably the county should go on the same path of kind of getting it in their packet tomorrow. Because as you say, time is of the essence. And if the Port Authority decides that it's not a deal for them, then the county might decide that, they are willing to do it. To have two trains on the track, I don't think would hurt.
Do we need a motion to go ahead with this, or where are we at?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with it for the city and look at review the terms at our earliest possible convenience.
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that motion carries. And with that, we will call this Port Authority
Wait.
meeting adjourned.